Good evening, boys and girls. Our story tonight is Dewey, There's a Cat in the Library, and it's written by Vicki Myron and Bret Witter. They work together, Witter. They work together to write the story, and sometimes authors work with others. So, every night, people left books in the return box of the library in the small town of Spencer, Iowa. Funny books, big books, truck books, pig books. They left them all. But one night, on the coldest night of the year, someone left a strange surprise. A tiny kitten. Why would you put a kitten in a book box? That is just... But they did. When Vicki the librarian, remember? Vicki Myron wrote the book. So she's telling about what happened. When Vicki the librarian found him the next morning, the kitten was cold and scared and very, very dirty. Vicki took one look and decided to give him a warm bath. The kitten went into the sink brown and crying, but he came out orange and purring. I'm going to keep you, said Vicki, who already loved him. We'll name you Dewey, read more books. You can live here and be our library cat. Now, Dewey is a person who, back up, nonfiction, the real stories, how they have numbers and you kind of organize them by the numbers. That's called the Dewey system. And that's where they got the name Dewey. But Dewey had no idea what it meant to be a library cat. So he did what all kittens do. He played. He lounged on newspapers. He rode the book cart and knocked the pens to the floor. He goofed around with Marty Mouse and snooped in every open drawer and always found at least one rubber band. He's a cute cat. But what Dewey loved most of all was the people. Tall ones, round ones, quiet ones, loud ones. The little ones, however, surprised him, and not always in a good way. Look, Nathan, said his mommy, there's a cat in the library. Nathan bent down and said, Hi, hooey, Dewey, yooks. No, his sister Hannah said, it's Dewey, read more books. Dewey squirmed. The boy was petting him the wrong direction. Dewey loved to be petted, but he hated when people petted him the wrong direction. Dewey was licking his fur back into place when he heard a strange noise. Wah! Dewey's ears perked up and he looked around. Wah! Wah! Dewey sprang to attention and crept really slowly towards the sound. Surprise! Little people, Dewey discovered, come in tiny sizes too. They loved to giggle and grab and pull and coo. Babies are wonderful, Dewey thought. Cute and smell-licious too. Yeah, babies do have a special baby smell. That can be wonderful. A few days later, Dewey went exploring and discovered in a secret room the most exciting thing he had ever seen. Children's Story Hour. Wowsy whiskers, this looks like fun, Dewey thought, as he pushed into the room with his nose. Someone shouted, There's a cat in the library. Dewey froze. It was quiet for 1 minute. Then everything went wild. And the next thing Dewey knew, he was being carried upside down. Oh my, Dewey thought, what should I do now? Look at that. She's got him. She's got him safe, but he's upside down. Poor kitten. Late that night, Dewey talked to his friend, Marty Mouse. The library is a wonderful place, Dewey said, but I'm tired of being pulled and poked and carried upside down. I'm not just a cat in a library. I'm a library cat. A library cat helps people, I think. And I'm 92% convinced that that's the reason I'm around. Marty Mouse didn't say anything. I'm going to do it, Dewey said. I'm going to help people. And he felt so happy that he threw Marty Mouse into the air and kicked him with his back legs, then slept on him like a pillow. The next morning, when the first people arrived, Dewey was waiting to greet them by the front door. All morning, Dewey acted like a library cat. He read with the mommies and grandmas. He helped the daddies work. He even shelved books with the library clerk. And when he saw little Nathan, he turned a circle and a half so the boy could pet his back from his head to his tail, the right direction to pet a cat. I'm glad we're friends, Dewey, Nathan said. Dewey smiled at that. Yeah, well, sometimes we have trouble saying words, don't we? By lunchtime, Dewey was worn out. He found a good box. At first, he put his front paws inside, then his belly. He squished his back end down and wiggled around until he was all the way in and closed his eyes. There's an orange muffin in the library, a girl giggled. Kind of looks like an orange muffin. And cats do love boxes, don't they? But just as Dewey was about to drift off into sweet kitten dreams, he heard a heavy sigh. His eyes popped open and he saw a girl on the other side of the library. A sad little girl reading very quietly, all by herself. He climbed up close and stared at her. She looked the other way. He sniffed her hand. She wouldn't play. He knocked her mittens to the floor. She let them stay. Then he saw her jacket and had his best idea yet. Uh-oh. What is he going to do? Silly always works. I'll be a silly cat today. The girl stared at Dewey. You look like a fuzzy hot dog in a purple bun, she said, and then she surprised him. What's going to happen? She laughed right out loud. I love you, Dewey. Read more books, the girl whispered as Dewey nestled into her lap and began to purr. This is it, Dewey thought. I'm a real library cat, and it feels great. No, it felt better than great. It felt perfect. By the way, a true story. Dewey was a real cat that lived in a library. And Vicki was the librarian at that library that took care of Dewey. Can you imagine going to your public library and there being a cat there? Pretty neat. I think that's awesome. So, I am partial though. I like animals. Alrighty. Well, that's it for tonight. So, good night, sleep tight, and happy dreams. Till next time. Bye now.